Wow, what a day. 8 games in the NBA. Returns from injuries. Surprise ones. Big injuries, maybe. Involving Philadelphia. Yeah, Paul George, Tyrese Maxey, Isaiah Hartenstein. And that's just the start of it. Michael Bolton's got the rest.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and I think we can all agree that the superior audio format is mini disc. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Blue Sky, joshloyd.bsky.social, on Twitter at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free, and we are available on all platforms, so hit the thumb and the double bang and all of that stuff that you guys usually do as we head towards Operation 90K on YouTube, the annexation of Canada. Let's talk about the games. Well, actually, no, let's do a little bit of news to talk about first before we get into that. And we got the update that I guess we maybe were sort of expecting, and that is about De'Anthony Melton and his knee. It's a partial ACL tear. I sympathize, my man. They are not comfortable. But he is having surgery, unlike this idiot here talking into a microphone, and he will miss the rest of the season. And I know the questions come because I've already received it 5-6 times. At least, minimum. Oh, who's the pickup? We've seen the team without De'Anthony Melton. We've seen it. No one's gaining extra minutes. We've seen it. Remember this. This happens all the time. Oh, who's going to get the extra minutes? Nobody. Look at the last game. Look at the game before. And we're going to talk about the Warriors again today because they're playing again today. And it's the same lineup again. So there's no change here. Now, things will go back and forward depending on Stephen Kerr's whims. Also, the foreseeable future legend, he is the ultimate kiss of death. Anytime he says, yep, this is our lineup the rest of the season, something happens, an injury happens. There's always something. Every time. So hopefully he doesn't say it again. But we've seen it. We know. We've already been talking about it. Pajemski, a couple of extra ones. Lindy Waters are starting. A few more for Heald. A few more for Payton. We've seen it. Nothing is different. Something will be different later on, but literally nothing changes due to the De'Anthony Melton injury news today, except if you are in a deeper format, because now you get more security in someone like Lindy Waters. In fact, maybe you're in a double Onyx Platinum Diamond Titanium league. Yeah, maybe that is more interesting to you there for Lindy Waters. I think he's only a deeper league guy, not a standard. We've got some other injury updates. Jared Vanderbilt is reevaluated in a few more weeks. It is a very, very slow process. He had foot surgery in May. We obviously don't need to be rostering him. And the Lakers stuff is more interesting about the Connect, Rui, and Reddish scenario. I actually don't think that Vanderbilt's going to play any significant part of this season, to be honest. If he plays, it'll be limited and he'll be really restricted. I don't think we see much from him. We've got an update about Precious Achiuwa. The big sneeze is returning to practice on this road trip, which is about 5 games. So maybe towards the end of next week he is back, which would take Jericho Sims out of the rotation, I'm guessing. And then we got the very weird update on Chris Middleton, which feels it feels like obviously Glenn Rivers is involved and he is the coach of the Milwaukee Bucks, and it feels like there's a little bit of snakiness going on. I didn't say the word snake and Glenn Rivers in one sentence deliberately. That just happened to come out that way. But somebody leaked to Shams Charania that Chris Middleton's healthy and he's fully ready to go. He just can't get over the mental hurdle to get ready to play. Somebody leaked that. Somebody said that. They didn't go to Chris. I'm pretty sure that Shams didn't go, hey, Chris, what's going on, mate? You playing soon? I went, yeah, Shams, I'm fully healthy. But you know what? I think I'm too scared. There's no way that happened, right? Somebody leaked this from the Bucks organization, which leads to further issues about what is going on with that organization. As to what we do with Middleton, well, I honestly don't know. I don't know when he comes back. Does this sort of leaking of this thing cause him to come back quicker? Does it set him back in his mental struggles? I don't know. I'm not trying to get inside another man's head. I just don't know. So what I do know is that the fact that we are still 5 weeks in and he hasn't played means he's going to be on a minutes limit for a long time when he ever comes back. So I think, honestly, if you don't have the ability to hold on to Middleton, it's just too hard to hold him. you would try to hold, but maybe not. Victor Wembanyama and Devin Vassell are out again. That is terrible news. Yeah, it's not great for Wemby, but we saw him cop a knock on the knee, and we saw it. Vassell's random out-of-nowhere knee soreness is bad news, because this isn't why he missed the start of the season. It's something he had happen the season before. Maybe it wasn't even 23-24. It might have been 22-23. The fact that it's back up now, that is definite longer-term concerns that I'm worried about. And what we see is more for Castle, more for Champagny, more for Keldon, and obviously like Zach Collins and Goldfinger Charlie Bassey, we are streaming them hard. Collins will start, Bassey will come off the bench, and both will be useful. And then we got the news on Pat Williams, who also had the off-season foot surgery, missed the start of the regular season, or missed training camp, came in, was ready to go, and now is out again and at least another week with a flare-up of the same problem. A lot of that today, isn't there? Same problem causing an issue. So yeah, that's that one. Obvious. We'll talk about the Bulls later because they started like out of nowhere. Not their rookie, not on a team that's tanking and resetting. They started Torrey Craig, not Matas Buzelis, Torrey Craig. We'll talk about that later on as well, as we get into all the details of everything that happened, and it is an absolutely wild day, to be honest. Okay, so we might as well just go in here and talk about that first game of the day. And I'll be honest with you now, everything that you hear about me, I'm always honest with you, but everything you hear from me about this game, I think you can throw nearly all of it in the bin. It's the Pelicans, it's the Cavs, and that's because just, like, who's playing? And some of you will be sitting here and I'm going to say these things and you're going to go, what? Really? And I'll say, yeah, it's true. Elfrid Payton started for the Pelicans. You go, what year is this? No, it is 2024, and he signed today and he started. So Elfrid Payton started, Trey Murphy was resting, and then Jeremiah Robinson-Earl started, and because Brandon Ingram had to join the queue with an ankle sprain. Cool. We'll start with Payton, who had 11, 5, and 8. That's a very typical Elfrid Payton line. But again, does CJ play next game? Maybe. Does DeJounte come back next week? Maybe. If you want to take a short-term stream of Elfrid Payton, like, knock yourself out. Look at this box score. Just anyone who's playing, stream them for short-term. There is nothing long-term in any of this, I don't think. Because these guys are coming back. You literally might have CJ and Ingram play in the next game. And Trae will definitely come back. So what else happened here? Jeremiah Robinson-Earl had 9, 7, and 4. Like, that's a fart. Brandon Boston just can't hit any shots. He does not have long-term appeal. We still hold him, but he doesn't have long-term appeal. 14, 3, and 5. And then out of absolutely nowhere, in today's entry into what in the Dalton Connect is going on here, 40 minutes for Antonio Reeves, 34 points, 4 threes. I am certain that ESPN won't be talking about how the Pelicans have unearthed the star and how did anyone let this guy fall down to pick 54 or something, or whatever it is. How did this happen? Unbelievable. Look at this. Just ridiculous there. They've really unlocked something now. Not to say that Connect is bad, but this will get ignored, clearly. And it should. It should get ignored. Because this is a great game where he took 25 shots on a team that makes no sense. Also, Yves Missi played 19 minutes. He had 12 and 8. Yves Missi is not a 12-team league player. I think that's relatively clear. Javonte Green had 9 points. He didn't do anything. And even my man, Carlo Makovic, which some people love to try to rib me about, what happened to Carlo? You said he was going to be good. I still do actually think he's going to be good. But it doesn't matter if I think he's good. And when we saw the first lot of preseason games and he was not in the rotation, I said, cool, we don't draft him. When we're doing early drafts, we take a flyer because I actually think he would make a ton of sense playing next to Zion. But it doesn't matter if I know or if I think that. Not I know it because I don't know it. It doesn't matter if I think that. It matters if Willie Green thinks it. And he doesn't, so we didn't draft him. And we moved on really quickly. Cool. Done. Carlo had 2 points and 5 rebounds here. And that's, honestly, I don't know what more we need to tell about that game. It is on that side of the game, because it's just a ridiculous scenario that is not going to happen. Such is the way we are with the Cavs as well. Because Cleveland had no Darius Garland, so Milk stepped into the starting lineup, and then Sam Merrill was out, so we had rookie Jalen Tyson start. Let's start with the big story. It is Ty Jerome, who had, I think, 27 points in the first half and 2 in the second. He had 7 triples overall. He continues to shoot the absolute lights out. He shot 58% on his threes here. He's been really good. I don't think you had him in 12-team leagues at all. To me, this is a very clear rest situation for Garland. But Garland was out, LeVert was out, Strus was out, Okoro was out, Wade was out, Merrill was out. So don't worry about it. I love Jalen Tyson long-term. And he showed you why here. 16, 11, and 7 with 2 steals, shot the ball well. But he's a DNP most nights. Craig Porter, I like a little bit long-term as well, and he did his thing. He's a much worse offensive Derek White. He had 4 points, but he had 2 steals and 2 blocks with 7 assists. But these guys will play 0 minutes. Just look at this game. Donovan Mitchell played 20. Evan Mobley played 18 minutes. This game is just a garbage game. Luke Travers mulleted his way to 30 minutes and 4 points. George Niang had 20 points and 6 threes. If you were able to get a hold of Jalen Tyson and Ty Jerome to stream today, or Antonio Reeves, or bloody Alfred Payton, that's great. There's just absolutely nothing here that I think really means anything long term. You might get another game out of Alfred Payton. You might be able to squeeze a bit more BJ out of Boston, like maybe. But overall, this game means nothing apart from a little bit. Here you go, keeper alert. I think Jalen Tyson's going to be a pretty good player, and I think he might even move straight into the Karis LeVert role next season. Which is that siren, not a bad siren, huh? We're going to come back, talk about the other 7 games, and there's a lot going on there as well. But first of all, I'm going to tell you that today's episode is brought to you by the Game Time app. Game Time picks. Look at these guys. Not even reinventing the wheel. This is a new thing. That's not even the wheel. It's better than a wheel. That's what Game Time picks is. Game Time picks finds you the best value tickets for you to go see your favorite sporting team live. Simple as that. Filtering out the fluff only to find those great deals on the site and show them to you. You're not wasting your time. You're not wasting your money. And that's a key thing with Game Time. They value your time and they value your money. That's why they have the event cancellation protection. That's why they have the lowest price guarantee, where if there is a difference between the prices that you find with that ticket and on another site, you get 110% of the difference credited back. It is so easy to do. So they make all this stuff just a seamless, easy process because you want it to be easy because you want to go see something fun. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create the account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right. Game 2. Let's do it. The Chicago Bulls and your mates, the Milwaukee Glen Riverses. The Bulls got smashed 122-106 was your final score here. Like I said a little bit earlier, the Bulls did make that forced change to the starting lineup. With Patrick Williams being out, they started Torrey Craig, and Torrey Craig was really good. 28 minutes, 15 points, 3 threes, steal, and a block. Torrey Craig has had a few moments like this in the past. We've also seen Torrey Craig play for a long time, have starting roles for a long time, and not really be worthy of anything. If you're looking for someone in the short term, and the Bulls do have a nice little chunk coming up here, maybe you can look at Craig and say a 14 team as a stream, or even just, if you are just desperate to get volume in, maybe it does work in a 12. It seems relatively unlikely that it's going to be super successful in that sort of situation, but maybe we get something going on there. What else about the Bulls? Levine was pretty good here, 27, 5, and 6. And Nikola Vucevic had 14, 6, and 6 with 3 steals at a block. You got to love that from Vuce. Another 3 steals and 6 assists. Didn't take a free throw in that one, but blocked a shot and continues his career late career resurgence into an absolutely elite NBA center. Ayo Dosunmu, he's just maybe he's just not that good. The minutes are fine. 32 minutes with 8 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, 57%. But that doesn't get me excited at all. Maybe he's just not that good. Disclaimer, of course he's a good player. He plays in the NBA, and all NBA players are in the top 0.01% of basketball players in the world. So he is a good player, but I'm talking about relative to other players who might be relevant for the majority of fantasy leagues. Ayo Dosunmu is not considered a good player, and terms and conditions apply. Okay, let's go back to look at the rest of the Chicago Bulls here. Kobe White had 14, 2, and 2. That's a very down game for him. Well, what are we going to do with Josh Giddey? Look at his shooting numbers. Just go and have a look. They stink. And they didn't... Look, the reputation of Josh Giddey is a bad shooter. I get that. I understand it. But go look at his numbers. Last season, they're fine. He hit good percentage from 3. He hit 80% from the line. This season, he's just like, nah, none of it. He gets benched routinely. He had 5 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists. And honestly, I'm probably 1 or 2 away from him being a jack in category leagues. In points leagues, there's a little bit more value there, and I would hold. And it is hard to go away from a starting point guard. But it's a terrible run. Lonzo Ball, I don't think is ever going to be able to push into a large enough role, but it would not be stupid if the Bulls decided that Ayo Dosunmu, who's also not good, started over Giddey. The problem is that this is what I don't get. They give away Alex Caruso. They don't get anything back apart from Giddey. They don't extend him, and now they think he's bad. So what happens? Let's do a quick check. Did the Bulls lose this game? Yes. Did Taylor Horton-Tucker play? Yes. All right, check that off. And even in a game with no Pat Williams, their number 11 overall pick on a team that's bad, who is losing, who is theoretically trying to get a better draft pick, Matas Buzelis played 6 minutes, 2 points. Maybe he's just too good. Maybe that's why he's not out there. What else happened here? We got 16 useless minutes from Dalen Terry, and Julian Phillips had 14 minutes. And this franchise, if you are a Chicago Bulls fan, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that you have to deal with this inept ownership, front office, who's honestly probably the worst front office in the NBA. I feel for you. It's nothing worse than having your team ruined by a bunch of dead shits. Let's talk about the Milwaukee side of this. Even after playing under 5 minutes as a starter last game, Andre Jackson got the start again and played under 14 and went scoreless. So I don't know why Glenn Rivers is persisting with this. We're not persisting with Andre in any sort of situation. AJ Green was able to pop off. Remember, high tempo, terrible defense is what the opponent was bringing, so it does enable bigger minutes and bigger production. Well, not bigger minutes, better numbers when you go against the Bulls. Green had 18 with 5 threes and 2 steals. It's a really good line. Gaz Trent had 11 and 6 with 3 threes. It's not quite as good, but it's fine. And Green and Trent are sort of working into a Milwaukee version of a Hardaway Beasley, where you can get some threes. Which one of them does it? It's a little hard to know. Another big minute, Brook Lopez night. I'm sure that's going to go well. 21 and 5 with 3 steals and a block, while Yanni had 41, 9 and 8. Both guys over 70%. You might think that the Bulls have an interior defense problem just by looking at that. You might think that, but, probably not because it's Vucic in there. 0 points in 25 minutes for Taurean Prince. He sucks. He's streamable only in sort of desperate situations, but he's bad. And Bobby Portis is 6 assists from Bobby Portis. That's a year's supply. It's one of those things, win a year's supply of Wendy's hamburgers. And what's that? It's 1 hamburger per month. Bobby with the year's supply of assists there, which is basically, he's not rosterable unless you're just doing it as a stash. He's not doing enough. And Damian Lillard had 20 and 5 with 10 assists. We got more games that we're going to get to. Of course we do. So, before I do that though, I'll tell you that today's episode is brought to you by Chime. In your life, finances are important. But there become a time in your life where it becomes more important. You've got to really start to sort of focus up. Well, you can take control of your finances by using a Chime checking account with features like no maintenance fees, fee-free overdraft up to $200, or getting paid up to 2 days early with direct deposit. Check all that stuff out at chime.com/NBA. At the moment, to date, right this day, Chime has spotted members over $30 billion. Friends give friends a boost. Eligible members get complimentary boosts to temporarily increase a friend's spot me limit. When you give a boost, they can boost you back to temporarily raise your limit. How it works is you set up a direct deposit in your Chime account. After qualifying direct deposit of $200, Chime will notify you to enroll in SpotMe. With an activated debit card, Chime will spot you up to $200 when you exceed your balance. Your next direct deposit is applied to your negative balance. Chime never charges fees or interest for using SpotMe. Make your full finances a little greener by working towards your financial goals with Chime. Open your account in 2 minutes at chime.com/NBA. That is chime.com/NBA. Chime feels like progress. Banking services and debit card provided by the Bancorp Bank NA or Stride Bank NA. Members FDIC, SpotMe eligibility requirements and overdraft limits apply. Boosts are available to eligible Chime members enrolled in SpotMe and are subject to monthly limits. Terms and conditions apply. Go to chime.com/disclosures for details. All right, let's do the next game. We're talking Philadelphia and Memphis, and it should have been like a joyous game. It should have been a start of something new for Philadelphia. Tyrese Maxey was returning. We're going to see Maxey and George and Embiid all play together. And we did, for a little bit. Maxey returned and Kyle Lowry's out. So he's out of the starting lineup, but he's also out for about a week with a hip injury. But Memphis still wins, 117-111. The Sixers are, 2-12 now? And then, of course, Paul George got hurt. Again, he hyperextended the same knee. Now, we have to always be cautious about what teams say post-game, but Nick Nurse said, hey, check out my hats, buy them at nicknurse.com. But he also said that the doctors are fairly confident there's nothing structural there, and that if needed, they were sort of debating whether Paul George was going to be able to come in back into the end of the game. I think that's sort of garbage, but I don't know. It doesn't seem like, fingers crossed, it's nothing super, super serious here, but you'd have to expect that there is some missed time here for George, who had 2 points in 17 minutes, and it has been an absolutely disastrous start. Now, there are going to be people who sit here and look at Paul George and go, yep, he's done. He's washed. He's terrible. I'm not going to be one of them. I literally saw him last season put up unbelievably good numbers. He had a knee hyperextension. He came back. He shot poorly for 4 or 5 games or whatever. And he's done a knee hyperextension again. It's very frustrating, clearly. But I don't think this is like, wow, he's done, he's cooked, he's finished. Let's talk positive now, because Joel Embiid played 35 minutes. He had 35 and 11, a steal and a block, and that's what Joel Embiid is. Any opportunity I could get to trade off of Joel Embiid to get a first-round player back, I would do it, because I just don't have any confidence. He banged his knee in this one, looked a little bit hobbled too. I just think there's going to be a number of issues that crop up, but at least we got big Joel back. What we didn't get was big Tyrese. He played 5 minutes in the first half. What? 5 minutes. He did play 14 in the second and 8 points in 20 minutes total. Yes, he was on a minutes restriction, but is he on a shooting restriction as well? 23%. It has been I'd say pretty piss poor start from Maxey, who I was a little down on before the Paul George injury, because I thought, I don't know where he's going to sit in the rotation, and you are going to have someone else handling the ball and taking shots, and Paul George is not Tobias Harris. Maybe Toby's better. I was a little bit down on Maxey, but then George would get hurt, and then I thought, okay, Tyrese is going to have to step up. Joel's not there. He's going to have a really, really strong run to begin the season. But yeah, no, I guess not. So what this means is we're going to have more Jared McCain, I'm guessing, with George missing some time. But of course, Maxey's not going to be like this. Let's talk about McCain, who got the full Nick Nurse. He played 41 minutes. He had 20 points. He had 5 assists, no defensive stats, and was 46% from the field. It's a really good line. I don't want to sound negative about it, because he needs to be rostered clearly, and he's been very good. It's super impressive. Think about him, watching him in Summer League. His percentages were terrible, but I watched him and, oh my God, this guy looks so aggressive with his shot, and he's just getting to the spots all the time, which is always a great sign. But he played 41 minutes, and Maxey was under 20, and George was 17, and still only 20 points and only 2 rebounds. He looks a little empty overall in the fantasy skill set stuff. So we still don't know, because we got half games from Maxey and George. So we just keep rolling with McCain. But yeah, we'll see. Yabusele had 17 points in 19 minutes. He played a little bit more with George out. And then Oubre, he played less because he's bad.
Get that garbage out of here.
Well, Caleb Martin, at least he had 3 blocks. He had 4 assists. That's nice. But he had 2 points. He's a very, very fringe guy on the stream end of things, where Yabusele said 17 points and Drummond had 11 and 6 with 3 steals. You don't have to roster Drummond. I wouldn't bother with Yabusele. And if George misses, I think it's going to be an Oubre, Gershon, the Mayor, Ricky Council, KJ Martin, melange of garbage that sort of comes in. And it's really going to be, I think, difficult to be able to find a clear winner in that scenario. On the Memphis side of things, they actually were able to run the same lineup as usual. No Morant, no Edey, and there was no Smart, no Vince Williams, and no Johnny Conchar. Des Bane, after shooting 10% yesterday, had 21 and 10, 6 assists, 5 threes, 44%, 35 minutes, bang, ready to go. We're off and rolling. That is fantastic. Variance was a thing. Bad game. Talked about it yesterday. The Duck, Luke Kennard, had a trip to the locker room. He only had 12 points in 25 minutes. It's hard to see a consistent enough role for him every game. While Jalen Wells had 14 points in 29 minutes. Keeps just doing enough to be on the 14-team radar. Scott Pippen. This, again, I said this yesterday. I said it today. I'll say it again with Pippen. These games are why I think he's going to be a drop. Don't do it yet, but look who's out, and he has 8, 4, and 3 in 26 minutes. Love Scott Pippen. Think he's a really, really strong backup point guard. But he's doing it okay, let's have a look. So over the last 2 weeks, he's the 129th ranked player with every opportunity theoretically in the world, and he doesn't get it. That, to me, is a very clear long-term drop. That's very clear. Yeah, Morant, Smart, they might get hurt, traded, whatever. But, okay. Jay Huff is doing absolutely nothing. You do not need Jay Huff in 12-10 leagues, even though Edey is out. And Clark had 6 and 6, and that was also useless. These are just sort of bonus emergency stream type players. Let's talk Santi Aldama, who had 12, 6 and 6, which is a pretty good game. in 27 minutes. And while there's some players out, I don't mind having Santi, but I also, like Pippen, he doesn't have the long-term appeal. And Jaren was good again, 25-4 with a steal and 2 blocks. The next game involves something really, really dear to our hearts. The return of Isaiah Hartenstein. Portland and Oklahoma City. We will start on the Portland side. They lose 109-99. There was no Simons, no Ayton, no Thibault. And then Scoot started. I thought he started the game really well, 9, 3, and 8, and got hurt. So the 8 assists is nice. I thought he looked pretty good early on. But, it's really hard to suggest that he's a must-hold player. Let's go to Jeremy Grant, who had 14 and 7, and that's just ho-hum, while we got 38 minutes from Ansel Adams himself, Tamani Kamara. 14 and 9 with 2 threes in 38 minutes. It's a lot of minutes for Kamara, and he just sort of did enough. And that's why long-term I don't see him. Short-term I do. I want to go to Shaedon Sharpe now, because 21 points in 38 minutes. 21 points is good. But the emptiness, the struggles for a category league line are still there. 21, 4 and 2, no defense, bad shooting. I don't see star in this guy. I think he's an interesting player. I think he should be rostered, but I also don't think he's blowing us away fantasy-wise. Simons, I expect will be back next game, but Scoot will probably miss, so Delano Benton got 25 minutes, and he had 10, 4 and 2. It's not a great game. He shot 27%, and he does have that problem. I don't mind at least a 14-team grab of Banton here. Well, Denny, yeah.
Get that garbage out of here.
Sorry, mate. He had a triple one. He had 13 and 6 in 24 minutes, and it's just not enough. We actually got a bad Rob Williams game, despite 24 minutes, 4 and 8 for the Rock DJ. And Don Klingon played 21 and had 10 and 9 with 2 steals and 2 blocks. And we still do not have the answer to what happens when Ayton plays. What we do know is that Rob's going to play more than Klingon in the short term. And again, this is not because Klingon can't play more minutes, because we saw him play more minutes. It's because they don't want him to play more minutes, which is an interesting development. I would still have Klingon on my team over Williams because I think there's just more long-term appeal there, because what's the chance of Klingon playing in March versus Rob Williams being on this team? It is way higher on Klingon's side. And I think this is going to be very messy when Ayton eventually does come back. And by eventually, I mean literally maybe the next game. I think it's going to be pretty messy in terms of figuring out how those minutes and everything shakes out on a game-by-game basis. On the Thunder side of things, they made no changes to their lineup, even though we had a big fella returning. Isaiah Joe was out. Isaiah Hartenstein returned, but he came off the bench. Let's start with Hartenstein. Who cares if he comes off the bench? 29 minutes, 13, 14, 3 assists, 4 blocks. I said it earlier on the waiver wire show. He should never have been sitting on any waiver wires, but if he is, this is the easiest must add of all time. This is a top 50 player. You don't find this on the waiver wire. Don't get fooled into thinking that he's not good, please. This is an immediate. It's the easiest add you'll ever see, ever. The Bronco continues to absolutely dominate. Jalen Williams is cooking. 30 and 7, 8 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks, and 5 threes. Elite percentages. He has been ridiculous. I thought that we'd be in for a nice Jalen Williams season, maybe as a top 30, maybe, but not this. He's been unbelievably good. While Shea also 28, 5 and 4 with 3 steals and a block. Here's a question for you. What's the chances that Jalen Williams finishes ahead of Shea this season? It's under 50, but, maybe not that much. Alex Caruso started out the game really hot. 7 of 9 shooting in the first half. He ended up with 17 points on 73%. He had his 2 steals, and you go, are we back here? Well, maybe not, because he hurt his hip again and didn't return. He played 15 minutes, and of course, that shooting, after he shot 14% last game, is not a real thing. He's not going to be that shooter. You can't rely on him to be that guy. It's a hot game, and that's awesome. And we also saw the minutes bump up last game, but, hurt again? Very hard to suggest that he's a guy to hold. And it's the same stuff with all these other players. Lou Dort went back to being Lou Dort. 2 points on 0% shooting. He had 5 rebounds, and that's terrible. Aaron Wiggins played 15 minutes, had 5 points. Kaysen Wallace had 0 points with 3 steals. AJ Mitchell had 10, 4 and 1 with 2 steals. It's the same stuff. Mitchell, Wallace, Dort, Wiggins. It's all over the place. Dagnot's going to be mixing and matching, and I don't think any of them, Caruso, Wallace, Dort, Wiggins, I don't even know if I said Caruso, I don't think any of them are must-roster players. Dort has been the guy that's had the track record this season, but he's also got the track record long-term of being terrible. So if you wanted to move on, do it. But none of those other guys deserve a consistent spot. They don't, and we continue to see the proof in lay pudding. Next game, Houston. knocks it out of the park here against the Pacers, 130-113. Indiana had no Nesmith, no Nembhard. Ben Shepherd, who was curiously upgraded to question with an oblique strain, missed one game. Yeah, sure, that's going to work. He didn't play. Last game they started Jarris Walker. He was questionable heading into this game, but he did play. But they didn't start him. They started Quenton Jackson. You might be asking who? Well, not all of you will be asking who, because I know some of you will know who that is already. Quenton Jackson, cooked. First NBA start, 24 points in 27 minutes with 2 steals and a block and 3 assists. Of course, he shot 83% from the field, which is one of those things. It's the perfect marriage. It is. The opportunity, the increased minutes, and the perfect shooting. And it makes you look way better. I don't think we need to really super react to that. Deeper leagues, yeah, sure. Like anyone who's going to get some playing time. And Jackson has been getting some playing time. But it's Nesmith, Nembhard, and Shepherd all out. What we did get also is Moses Brown, the C-parter, playing. He played 7 minutes for 6 points, so cool. And Obi Toppin, who played 30 minutes last game, had 13 minutes for 4 points because he is also bad and you do not need to have him on your team. Only 19 minutes for TJ McConnell because Jackson did a lot more. 17 points for him with 4 assists. That's still okay to consider, but I think there's going to be a lot of fluctuations here. And we actually got a bad Ben Mathurin game. 8 points in 25 minutes with 5 rebounds and a block. He's had some obviously really, really good games. That's a bad one. But how about we talk about a guy that continues to have bad games, and that's Tyrese Haliburton. 4 points in 30 minutes. There was a stat that Caitlin Cooper had yesterday talking about Haliburton's numbers on the road versus home, and his home numbers are about the same. His road numbers are dreadful. And my hypothesis, I guess, on this is that his back is really in trouble, so any plane flights and foreign hotel beds is causing problems. That could be completely unfounded, but what else is it? Haliburton is averaging 15 points per game. He's averaging 8.5 assists, which is down, but it's not terrible. He's still playing 35 minutes and averaging 1.3 steals and 0.7 blocks, which is exactly the same as last season. He's at almost the same rebounds as last season, but there's just a very clear... actually, one other thing. Let's have a look. What's his usage difference? Last season, 24. This season, 21. So he's down. But he just can't shoot. He can't shoot 38 from the field. He was at 48 last season. He was at 59.5 from 2. He is at 49. He shot 36 from 3. He's at 28. So, yeah, it sucked for 15 games here. It's been dreadful. But I refuse to believe that Tyrese Haliburton is a 37.5 shooter. I refuse to believe that he's a 28% shooter. I refuse to believe that he's going to be under 50% from 2 when he's been at 57 and 60 for the last 2 seasons, which accounts for about 125 games worth of play. And yeah, the hamstring injury is a problem. I think the back issues is a problem. But this is going to get better. And I've seen multiple people now, man, I've just got to get rid of this guy. And I get the frustration. Fight the urge. Because trading him now is the worst decision you can make. If you're on the other side, you might be able to get Haliburton for nothing. I saw someone suggest Josh Hart, which, come on. Everything now, and if I am wrong, and Haliburton remains a 15 and 8 player on 38% shooting, I'll cop that. Totally fine. I will totally cop that because you have to go with what I believe is logic and what is just what you've seen. And when I think the term, I'm not a fool. I used to do a lot more of this stuff back in my old career and through uni and stuff about hypothesis and stuff like that, like null hypothesis. The question you ask, this probably isn't the null hypothesis, but if you ask the question, do you believe that Tyrese Haliburton is a 15 point per game scorer shooting 38% and under 29 from 3? If you sit and look at that question and go, yeah, you know what, that actually seems reasonable, then cool, then that's what you believe. But I don't think that a reasonable evaluation of Haliburton would suggest that that's true. I look at that and go, well, of course he's not. It's going to get better. Maybe it doesn't. And again, I will wear that if that's what it is. But that's how I tend to look at these sort of things. And yeah, it's precarious. There's no doubt about that. It's bad. But we'll see. Miles Turner came back 10 and 9 with 5 blocks. So in the end, Haliburton, my advice, buy low, do not trade away. That's where I'm going. And I understand that it gets harder and harder each time one of these turds gets laid. Every time that happens, I get that it is harder to stick with. But, I believe that you can do it. Houston did not make any changes to their lineup today, but what we did get was a pretty comfortable victory in the end. 31-12 for Şengün. Van Vliet, he's back on track. And that's almost, it's not perfect, but it's a really interesting corollary with Van Vliet versus Haliburton. Because remember the panics on Van Vliet, man. I can't believe Josh. He's your favorite player, and this is what he is. He's dreadful. He sucks. All right, he's like a third-round player over the last 2 weeks, and he's 26 over his last 5 games. I think we're all right, yeah. I think we're back. We're back to normal. I think we're good. 18-2-6 with 4 steals and 4 threes because it just, players don't become that bad overnight for no real reason. We also got a good Jabari Smith game, which is interesting. And if you wanted to add him, go for it. That's okay. I don't really buy in that as a long-term thing, but he had 23 and 8. That's really good. Second consecutive terrible Dylan Brooks game. And you might say that's because he's bad. And I'll say, yeah, I understand that. 4 points in 22 minutes. And let's see, are they going to keep playing him? This wasn't even foul trouble. Will they keep playing him 22 minutes? Don't know. Be interesting if that's what happened. But it didn't mean that we got big Amen Thompson minutes. And before you panic on Amen, go, what is this? How can I trust him? He had 6 points in 17 minutes. 6-1-0. 2 things. When you come off the bench, always remember that your minute floor is lower. Your minute ceiling is lower. If you're a better player than the starter, it doesn't matter, but your minute floor is lower, your minute ceiling is lower. But Amen Thompson got into really extreme foul trouble early in this game. What did he finish with? 4 fouls. So of course, his coach fouled him out, but he had 3 fouls, maybe 7 minutes in his first 7 minutes, really, really quick. So that's why the minutes are well down. So don't panic too much about looking at this, are they deciding something different? Tyrese had 11 and 9 with 6 steals, continues to be awesome. And Jalen Green continues to be Jaylon. Too much Jollibee maybe, as he has 14 points in 28 minutes with 5 assists and 2 steals. And I've never seen a man that is more Jalen Green than Jalen Green is at the moment. And that's okay, but it is, again, a sobering reminder that when the hot streak comes, there's probably a Jalen Green lurking around the corner. Now let's talk about a couple of blowouts. The Golden State Warriors take care of the Atlanta Hawks. The Hawks did welcome back Jalen Johnson. That meant Garrison Matthews moved to the bench. Jalen played 35 minutes. He had only 15 points and a rough shooting night, but 14 boards. He hit 3 threes. He had 4 assists and 2 steals. Pretty good. Let's talk about what's not good, and that's Trae Young at the moment. 12 points on 33% is bad. He did have 11 assists, and that's, I think, 30 in his last 2 games. He had 2 steals, but only 4 free throw attempts, only 33% shooting, under 20 usage, and he was minus 19. It's a slump for Trae, for sure. I'd be very interested in buying low on Trae Young, but it's a little concerning. Last game, DeAndre Hunter went absolutely crazy. This game, he had 10 points, but he did supplement it, which, to his credit, is not something he does usually. 4 steals on this one, but 25% shooting. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead and ignore the steals. Yeah, he's not going to be this bad of a shooter. He's not as good as last game. To me, he's a fine stream fringe player who isn't must roster. Ricochet played 19 minutes. 12 and 8's okay. But unless you're getting 30, I don't really care in 10s or 12s. Maybe we're deeper league things. I don't really see much there. And we actually got a down game from Dyson Daniels. Variance kicked you in the dick here. He had 11, 6 and 3 in 31 minutes with no defensive stats, and he shot poorly. We knew there was going to be something like that, and that's like no steals in 2 consecutive games. Again, just highlighting the absolute insanity of the steals category. This man can get 6, 6, 6, 6, and then none for 2 games in a row. So you might actually, this week, you might have Dyson Daniels on your roster and lose steals. That's easily possible. Just the weirdness of head-to-head. The Okongwu-Capella situation continues to be like, what am I doing here? 11 and 11 for Clint in 22 and 9 and 7 for Okongwu. You can roster them both, but it doesn't appear as if anyone's going to run away with this. They both shot horribly as well. Just a really frustrating scenario. Same with Bogdanovic, who had 6 and 7 in 23 minutes. The Hawks are bad, but is there a case to be made that maybe there's too many players? You've got Hunter and Bogdanovic both coming off the bench. You've got to try and give minutes to Bufkin, who played 18 minutes. You've got Ricochet getting 20 minutes in the starting group. You've got these 3 centers, like Nance didn't even play in this one. I am holding Bogdanovic, but it might not be for long. It depends what this role is. If the role sits like this same Ricochet Hunter level, then that's not good enough. It's just not enough. On the Warriors side, we got the news, of course, that De'Anthony Melton is out for the season. But like I said at the start of the show, we already had De'Anthony Melton out, so nothing here changes. And again, I got so many questions. What do I do now? Who do I add? You had nobody. John Kuminga had 10 points in 15 minutes. He played 15 minutes. He did have 2 steals. He did have a block, which is very Kuminga-like. But overall, it's just a lot of the same. Wiggins was pretty good. He actually seems like the best of that group. 27 and 7 with 2 blocks, but it's not like he's been good all season. Steph, he had 23, 4 and 8, and Draymond was pretty good. It was also a very good Trace Jackson-Davis game. If Davis gets 23 a night, he's a clear 12-teamer. The problem is that he doesn't get that many minutes. He had 14 and 11 with 4 assists and a block. That's easily a 12-team guy. But I have no confidence in these minutes. He'll play 17 next game. If you want to take a chance on it, do it. But I think you're going to be like just cycling through a lot of these guys. You'll be shocked to know that Buddy Hield had 11 points in 20 minutes with no assists, no steals, and no blocks. And I think I'm ready to call it.
Get that garbage out of here!
He was insanely ranked on some sites at the beginning of the season, like ridiculous. Like I think ESPN had him at like 65 or something. It made no sense. None at all. And it also made no sense how high I had Brandon Podziemski, who got whacked in the face again and had to go to the locker room and didn't return, but had 3 points in 15 minutes. We're not rostering him either.
Get that garbage out of here!
I guess we need to look a little bit at Hall Pass legend Lindy Waters, who had 10 points in 23 minutes. That's a deeper league play. I don't know that he'll continue to start. I know they cooked here. That's great. But Hield and Podziemski and Moody and Payton, we even got 3 minutes of Guy Santos. I don't think anyone that I'm looking at there. I don't think Kuminga, Podziemski, or Hield, or Waters, or Moody are 12-team league players. Wiggins is the 12-team guy. Jackson Davis could be if he gets 22. But we have seen that he just hasn't been getting those minutes. So it's very hard for me to put the faith there. Now, if you want to, again, we're always about getting ahead of it and taking flyers. So that's totally cool if you want to do that. But there's nothing at the moment to me that suggests that that is a likely scenario of being able to go down. The New York Knicks smacked it down onto the Suns, 138-122. I don't know that he's back, but I hope that he's back. 36 points for DeBurner, Jalen Brunson, 7 threes and 10 assists. We're rolling. Had him on the old buy low show after week 2, and then we did the reassessment 2 weeks later, and he barely moved and went, okay, I didn't get that one right. And then, of course, the exact day later, he's put in 2 big performances. So we're good. We're going. This is what we wanted. Townsy had 34 and 10, while Josh the Hitman Hart had 19, 11, and 6 with 3 steals. Another elite shooting night from Hart. Anunoby and Bridges were both fine, mid. But someone I did mention on the waiver wire show, someone I said that, we're getting a little bit of stuff happening here. It was mainly for the old double onyx, platinum, diamond, titanium players. But Campaign, 12-1 and 3, 2 threes, a steal. He's at least 14-team viable while Juice McBride is out. We've got 11 Tyler Kolek minutes and nothing from Jericho Sims. Overall, there's very little to say about the Knicks from a fantasy point of view, and that's a pretty consistent theme for a while now. Phoenix, this is their final game of the week. And it is possible the next time we see them play, Bradley Beal's there, and it is possible that Kevin Durant returns. I'm going to tell you, I've got no idea what to say about Yusuf Nurkic. What is this roller coaster? 14 and 12, 3 threes, 3 steals, and 2 blocks is a ridiculous game. I will tell you this, though. Cat is one of the worst center defenders in the NBA. So you can actually put up some good numbers as a big man against him. Nurk is the starting center. Nurk has had ankle soreness. Nurk can put up good games, but there's been a lot of bad ones. If you want to roster him, fine. If you dropped him and you're frustrated, I also get that. But I don't think it's something you need to be like, oh man, how could I possibly drop Nurkic? Because every sign would tell you that he's been pretty mid. Devin Booker, 33 with 5 assists, and Jones had 15, 3 and 10. These are all solid, but everything is going to change when Durant and Beal are back maybe next game. And actually, finally, for the first time forever, Royce O'Neal hit shots. After Durant went down, I think we had Royce, and then he shot 20% in 5 straight games. He has 17 points, 50% shooting, 5 threes, 33 minutes. They started him in this game, and that's great. Do not add him. There's no games the rest of this week. Don't do anything with it. Okogie was fine, but don't care. And Ryan Dunn is just playing 21 minutes, and he's not even doing the defensive stuff. So he's only a 20-team league player, while Grayson Allen, 22% shooting, 8 points, 21 minutes. No more games this week. See you later.
Get that garbage out of here!
What is also interesting, Mason Plumlee, cockroach, out of the rotation. Osa Ighodaro, backup center. Deeper leagues, Osa Ighodaro is coming. He's also playing a lot better. So, when you're in those leagues, you got to be paying attention to the trends. You got to be 3 steps ahead of me, which I'm sure you are. If you've already eaten me alive so many times, I'm not even sure how I'm here. But Osa Ighodaro had those 2 points, and we got 4 minutes of Big 4 legend Bowl. Now we can hit the final game of the day, the LA Clippers hosting our Orlando Magic. The Clippers, they get the win over the Magic, who'd been playing really well without Parlour. Couldn't get it done here, though. They got a game tomorrow as well. The Magic up against the Lakers, 104-93, the final score. Shocked to see that the Magic couldn't hit 100 points. Franz Wagner cooled off, not surprisingly, but was still pretty good. 14, 6 and 6 with 4 steals, and on an off night, you take that sort of stuff. It was also a better game from Jalen Suggs. Now, he still only played 25 minutes, looked to have hurt his leg at one point, but played through it. But 16, 2 and 2, stealing a block after what we've been getting from Suggs, that's a welcome bounce back. And it was another game. It's a game from the Dart, Goga Badadze. 9 points, steal block. I think Wendell might return tomorrow. I will hold Goga, but I do think he's going to be a drop really soon. We got 22 minutes out of John Isaac, and we got 2 threes and 3 blocks. And again, if you added him, you don't want more than this. Well, I mean, you do. You always want more. We're greedy pricks, aren't we? We always want more. But that is actually okay and good enough as a borderline 12-team holding categories, not for points. While what we also got was another solid game from Mr. Black. Anthony Black played 29 minutes. He had 17 points. He had 2 threes. He had 8 assists. He was bad at the line, but he blocked a shot. It's 2 good ones in a row. Again, 2 bad ones in a row before that, but it is getting better. And he's getting some minutes sometimes over Suggs. The other thing to look is KCP is just dreadful. 2 points in 29 minutes for KCP. Now, it does take players joining new teams at times a bit of time to get acclimated. I don't think he's this bad, but he sucks like hard at the moment. Back to the Mr. Black. Oh, that was bad, but forget I did that one. Back to the Mr. Black discussion. Anthony Black, can you add him? I mean, you can do whatever you want. It's your life, free will, unless something like nefarious is going on, and if that case is, call local protective services in your area. I think you can consider it. You have to be very specific as to what you want. The scoring is probably not a real thing. Assists are. Defensive stats are. Percentages will go up and down. But I like the way the minutes are trending. I think I'm in a 14. I would look at Anthony Black as an interesting ad. But I wouldn't say that he's a must in 12s. Although that 2 in a row is encouraging. On the Clippers side of things, what we do know is that Norman Powell was out with a hamstring, and they've said, shockingly enough, after he came back into the last game, they're like, no, he's actually going to miss at least the next 2 games. Oh, yeah, really? Yeah, cool. I'm going to say he's out for a little bit longer than that, but whatever. Jim Harden had 24, 7 and 5 with another bad shooting night. This is just stock standard Jimmy. And what they did do is they started the Farmers Union. Fuick legend Amir Coffey played 33 minutes. He had 18 points with 4 threes. He shot 60%. Don't get fooled by the rocks that he's got. I don't think he's going to do this every game very clearly, but the minutes preference is interesting. If I'm in 14-teamers, this man's rostered nowhere. So yeah, like 16-teamers, add Coffey. 14s, maybe. 12s, potentially, but probably not. Chris Dunn, 26 minutes, not really a good line. The minutes are fine. 7, 3 and 3 with the steal is not quite there. He's for very specific teams. Like if you want to say I'm dropping Chris Dunn to try to see what Anthony Black is doing, go for it. Totally okay. I don't think you're missing a huge amount if Dunn's going to do this. That's okay. This is what we do. We take cracks at things. Hey, Chris Dunn started. If he plays 28 a night, he might get you 10, 5 and 5 with 2 steals, and that's absolutely plenty for a category league. But if the downside is there and the minutes keep pushing down, then we don't care. We move on. And for points leagues, you want nothing to do with Chris Dunn. Forget that. Nothing to do with you. What we did get, though, is we did get the double Onyx Platinum Titanium Diamond Special. Because Jordan Miller played. I didn't know they'd do it, but they did. I think he looks good. He's another one a bit like Jalen Tyson that I'd be interested in a bit of a dynasty stash. Not going to do the siren again in case I get it wrong. 8 points, 2 steals. He shot 7 times. I don't think they'll necessarily give him more next game, but it's at least a little bit of a short-term deep league boost. While Terrence Mann had 0 points in 15 minutes. Someone did ask me a question. I didn't respond to it because sometimes I just see things and I can't answer everything. They go, man, why would you suggest... They didn't say it in a negative way. They'd be like, why did you think that Chris Dunn or Coffey would be better options than Terrence Mann to replace Norman Powell? Because of this. Because Terrence Mann is just not good. And he's had time and chance and time and chance and time and all this to do it, and it never happened. So I don't care. I'm not adding him. He's not a 12, he's not a 14, he's not a 16-teamer. Solid enough game from Cousin Kev, 10, 4 and 6 with 2 steals at a block. That actually is probably okay for 12s, but still... 20 minutes makes it really shaky because if he has a bad game and doesn't get 6 assists, well, it just looks bad. And he's a horribly inefficient player. So, like, it's another one of those ones where, like, I think you can take a short-term flyer on a Coffey or a Dunn or or a Porter and see what happens, but I think it's going to go back and forth. And this was the infamous four-sided die question that made me seem like an inferior nerd to so many of you other guys out there, because I didn't know it existed for the role-playing games. All your RPG legends knew it, and I didn't. And I'm going to be internally... I am still embarrassed I've never played like a Dungeons & Dragons game. I've never done it. I've never been a big sidebar. I've never been a big role-playing game guy. I'm more into like, insane statistics in sports. Who could have guessed that? And played like tons of things like Civilization and games like that, but never into the big RPG stuff. But, there you go. There you go. I'm sure you care a lot. Derek Jones had an okay game, realistically, because of only steals, and that's sort of where we're at with that. Should we do the monstrous? We should. Who is it? Well, this one was actually really, really tight, and that's what she said. And I wonder if you know who the monstrous line of the night was, because it was like bee's dick in it. The monstrous line of the night is a Jaylon. It's the Brunson variety. Burner. 36 points, 10 assists, 7 of 11 from 3. Narrowly over the other Jalen Williams, who had an absolute monster as well. Your waiver wire line of the night and your young gun of the night, it's the same bloke. And I have never seen, you'll see this when we get to the top 6 later on, I have never seen a day in the NBA where the waiver wire line of the night is filled up with like 5 guys on 0% rostered. Because Tyson was one of them. 16, 11, and 7 with 2 steals. I wish we could get this more often from him, but there's just too many guys out, and it's just not going to be a regular thing. One of the weirdest games you will see, and he popped off and put up a big performance. The dud of the night. I like the guy. Obviously, I think he's a really good player and going to be a really good fantasy player, but we have to go to Amen Thompson here. 6 points and 1 rebound. Foul-plagued minutes, no assists. He did have a block, but yeah, that's your dud of the night. Now, let's look at that top 6 list that I said. Very tightly contested up the top of the list for the best performance of the day, as well as your waiver wire and all that sort of stuff. At the top was Jalen Brunson, then followed by Jalen Williams, then Giannis Antetokounmpo, Joel Embiid, Steph Curry, and Karl Anthony Towns. But look at this waiver wire list. So like I said, Jalen Tyson was at the top, then Quenton Jackson, Antonio Reeves, Milk, probably the only guy there who was actually like considered rosterable, Ty Jerome, AJ Green, and Gershon Yabusele. What a stupid day. Jackson, Reeves, Tyson all took advantage of weird injury situations. The guy that's got probably more of a chance of it holding is Jackson, because if Shepherd remains out, maybe he does something more, but I don't think I'd take a 12-team plunge. Jerome also, but like Garland will play next game, and Levert might play, and Okoro and Merrill, and then Milk goes and plays 18 minutes. So I don't even know that I'd do that. Actually, AJ Green's got a chance to be a 15-point 3-3 player for a couple of games and then have 7 points on 1 of 9 shooting. And Yabusele, maybe if George misses, maybe they go to him at the 4. He's been playing a little bit more there alongside Caleb Martin at the 3, but that's still probably more just a deeper league type shout. Why do I say shout like that like I'm a kid? Yahoo points. Who are the top 6 there? Yanni, Jalen Williams, Joel Embiid, Jalen Brunson, the delicate dancer Alperen Şengün, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And just to drive us all home, it's the ESPN points top 6. Jalen Williams, Giannis, Jalen Brunson, Andy Wiggins, Josh the Hitman Hart, and Brook Lopez. Is that it? Are we done? I think we are. Big show. Lots of info. Go ahead and hit the old YouTube subscribe. And I said something this morning on the Waiver Wire show, which seemed to resonate with a lot of people, because there's so much negativity around in different spaces, and even in the fantasy community, and I hate it. Now, you might say, Josh, like you be rude and you use bad swear words to people all the time. I do. You're right. Only if someone comes at me with something incredibly rude or disrespectful, I won't put up with it. I'll fire back and I'll let them have it, right? With whatever word you can think of. That's not true. There's a couple I won't use. And that's not including the one that starts with C. I will go back at you. But I want positivity. I hate the taco leagues. I hate the ultimate I'm the best league ever, or you don't know what you're doing. I hate all that stuff. All right? I just want this to be a more positive environment, and everyone is dealing with a lot of things in life. So I'm going to make it a habit on the show at the end to remind you, you did something good today. Someone is proud of you. Someone is proud of you. But be proud of yourself and keep doing the good thing. Doesn't matter if it is. You know what it is? You know what a good thing is for someone? You had a shower. Because that might have been a struggle for you. You had a huge day in fantasy. You placed a bet on the NBA and it won. You cooked dinner for someone. You showed appreciation. You said thanks, right? You did something good. I know you did. And someone is proud of you. And let's get the vibes going. Let's keep positive vibes. I want positive vibes. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.